Today, they're asking about an interesting angle on a topic we often talk about, which is weekly releases on Netflix. Check it out.
Hi, this is Owen White. It feels like all the time when people talk about Netflix, they're always talking about, their shows getting canceled after 1 or 2 seasons. My question is, if Netflix adopted weekly episodic release strategy, do you think that would decrease the chances of a series getting canceled? I feel like that would help it a lot. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
All right. Thanks a lot for writing that in, Owen. And yeah, listen, one of the things we've been talking about this for a while now, actually for a couple of years. Netflix is known for having some excellent programming. They're known for having the most impressive library going right now with both original and curated content. But they are also known for canceling shows real fast. Now, look, I'm a believer in failing fast. Actually, when I coach anybody, one of the first lessons I often talk about is fail fast. Because when you fail fast, it takes away any fear of recognizing something you're trying isn't working, move on from it quickly. And that way you're never going to develop a fear of being trigger shy about trying new things, right? But as many of our audience will point out, a lot of the stuff that Netflix has canceled over the years, whether in its first or second season, have been excellent programming that, for one reason or another, whether it was escalating costs or more likely wasn't able to really find a big enough audience to justify its existence, they ended up pulling the trigger. And to Netflix credit, they then quickly take that money and then invested in the show, but had a very passionate group of people that did like it. We've seen several other shows on Netflix get the advocates around here of the notion of Netflix needs to get away from their dropping their entire seasons at once for a long time. And for many, many different reasons. But to focus in on what you're talking about here, if Netflix moved to a model of moving to week releases, could that reduce the number of, here's why. It won't, reduce the number of cancellations for shows that ended up not being good. I mean,
right.
that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Of course.
But we're going to go back to what happened with WandaVision, all right? When WandaVision first dropped, its numbers weren't huge. The first week, or even the numbers went up in the second week, even in the first couple of weeks, the numbers weren't large. And I'm going to tell you this. Had WandaVision been, and can you believe we're on our second anniversary of WandaVision?
No.
Or we're getting close to our third?
No, I think second.
Second anniversary? Anyway, it's been a while. So had WandaVision been on Netflix and dropped all at once, I think it would have came and gone fairly quickly because it didn't find an immediate audience.
Right.
But what happened with WandaVision? They played a new episode every week. And as the weeks progressed, more and more people talked about it. And as people kept talking about it, people who hadn't seen it kept hearing about it week after week after week and finally go, fine, I'll check it out. And what happened? We talked about this a year and a half ago. The numbers grew and grew and grew and grew until it was like one of the biggest shows in the world at the time. I believe that audiences will find quality if you make quality findable. And when you take an entire series and just drop it at once, because here's what happened. Like we talked about this with Punisher that was on Netflix. The series dropped. Everybody talked about it for 72 hours. I completely believe that if Netflix had the wisdom and the foresight to move, and we've talked about it does look like Netflix is little bit by little bit inching towards doing weekly releases. But I believe if and when they do go to weekly releases, they're going to find that some of their higher quality programming will find an audience that otherwise would not have found an audience, because a new episode's going to come out and everybody's going to talk about it. And then a week later, another new episode's going to come out and everybody's going to talk about it. And the average, and go, finally, I'll check it out. Just like it did with WandaVision, just like we've seen it do with a lot of other shows. So yeah, I 100% believe that if Netflix were to employ the weekly release system, the bad ones would still go. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2023, why are you still first company to sell premium wireless service online only? Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Guys, I have told you before that when I was on one of the major phone carriers, I was spending literally 3 times as much as premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily in just minutes with eSIM. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. I don't know, Rob, we've talked about this issue a lot, but specifically about it saving shows that otherwise get canceled on Netflix. How do you think it would affect it?
I think it would affect it greatly because I read an article recently, and I think I talked about it on the show, that how many of the viewers that watch a show actually finish watching the show. And I think when you're starting to watch a Netflix show, you might be into it, but watching all 10 hours is something you think, okay, I've watched 3 hours, I'll come back to it later. And some people don't because they get busy. And so suddenly you have a show like 1899 that wasn't on Netflix for that long. They decided not to renew it within a few fairly quickly.
Yeah,
and they said no. It was an expensive show that they had a lot of hope for because Dark is a show. And Dark, by the way, grew in stature. How long did it take people to even discover that show? And it ran 3 seasons. So the thing is, if you're watching a show every week, John, I think people are personally more invested in it. If you have all 10 episodes and you watch 3 hours, you're like, I'll come back. But if there's a show every week and people are talking about it, you have friends that you talk to about it, it becomes an event, a weekly thing. And I think that's a better way to establish an audience because you have time to think about what you've watched. You might talk to a friend randomly and go, I watched that too. What'd you think about what happened to the last episode of, 1923? That was pretty dope, right? And people talk, and then it becomes a thing where it becomes an appointment. If you have everything there and you're not totally you like it, but you're not that engaged by it all at once or whatever, you kind of drop it and fall away. But that weekly thing makes it people like destinations. Oh, I've got a date with my TV show.
Yeah.
And it makes them invest more, I think. And I think that completion rate would at least go up. And maybe shows would get a little bit more of a chance to catch an audience, find an audience.
I agree, because take a show like Legion, for example. Again, I watched the first episode or 2, fell off it, right? If that was a show that dropped all at once, I would have watched the first couple episodes, heard everybody talk about it for a couple of days, and then I never would have picked it back up. And this show's getting so good. This show's getting so good. Check out. Now, of course, Chris, every once in a while, we saw that with a couple of their other shows. Could moving to a week-to-week, increase the number of shows that find footing on Netflix? Or, is it today's world and today's Twitter generation, it's you either find it immediately or you don't? I don't know. How do you think?
They feel like it allows people to take chances on their newer titles, right? Maybe things that weren't as well advertised. It's Netflix. Certain things that maybe you don't know about, right? Certain things maybe like us. We have that water cooler discussion. It becomes part of the zeitgeist as opposed to something we just ingested, enjoyed, and now we've moved on to something else, right?
Yeah.
Even though we had this big chunk of Stranger Things, that lead up to the final concluding episodes of the season really, really caused a lot of tension. And that's the thing that's great about a weekly model, right? From a narrative structure, you can build tension. You can have people really discussing what could be happening. Same, bud.
Yeah.
I'm on that same boat as you. But I think that happens a lot to these kinds of shows. When we binge them all and they're all dropped, we just forget about them immediately. And I think this would lead to them actually having subscribers maintain their subscription.
Yeah. And again, there have been shows where it's it all dropped. And it's everybody watched it after 3 days. I'm not really interested. Everybody tells me to watch it for a couple of days and then nobody's talking about it anymore. Whereas again, if it's a weekly model, everybody's telling you for months and maybe you go check it out.
Well, John, just The Last of Us. If you Google The Last of Us this morning, there is dozens of articles that not only review the show, talk about the disease, the fungus disease in the show. There's all kinds of think pieces. So suddenly, it would take you a week just to catch up with all the news that dropped this morning in the wake.
And of course, there are advantages to the binge model. We've talked about that a lot. But anyway, guys, question is for you. Well, this specific question: if Netflix if and when Netflix moves to a week-by-week model, do you think that some shows that were canceled prematurely maybe would have found a longer shelf life and more seasons? I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.